Hello and welcome to day 5 with Pascal Landsend to John O'Groats. How are you, Pascal?
Hello, Steve. Yeah, I am very well. I am in a glamorous back alley in glamorous Sandy, which I think's Bedfordshire, but might be Lincolnshire. So don't quote me on the counties today.
So I'm not going to give you very many marks out of 10 for beautiful backdrops, railing a brick building. What happened to the beautiful countryside?
Yeah, I know there's no connectivity in that beautiful countryside, so I have to dip into towns for these chats, and then it's slightly less beautiful. But no, good to be about almost halfway through today.
So you should go through the halfway point tomorrow.
Of the whole ride, yeah, I think so. Yeah, so the whole ride is just over 2,000k. I think I'll pass through the 1,000k mark tomorrow, which would be great, like a big psychological sort of block to get over. But in terms of today's ride, I'm halfway through the day, so I've got about 200k to do all in today, and I'm about the 100k mark at the moment. So progressing well.
So I was running a bit late for this, as I've just told you, and I had to cycle all of 2 kilometers on my electric bike on the complete flat along Southsea seafront, and I am absolutely melting. I'm not looking for any sympathy. I'm going to have to admit I've got a bit of sympathy for you now, which is not really how I was imagining it going, but you know, I feel sorry for you.
That's the first time you said something nice to me, Steve. Yeah, no, I wish I had an electric bike at times. I mean, it'd probably take the challenge out of it somewhat, wouldn't it? But yeah, it's a lot easier going on one of those in weather like this. But
yeah. But bear in mind, I didn't have all my kit or my flip-flops and all the rest of it either.
Yeah, so I was going up a hill kind of just outside of Watford early in the ride today, and the first bit of the ride was quite hilly, quite up and down. And because I'm carrying all the kit, the bike is quite heavy, which means going uphill, you know, takes quite a lot of effort. And to be honest, I kind of just sit there fairly steady, just spin the legs, because I know, like, you know, I've got big days ahead of me. So if I crank it up a hill, then I'm going to be pretty worn out at the top. And so I sort of just get my way up there gradually. And this morning, an old lad, a guy of maybe around about 70 or 80 overtook me on one of the hills on a bike, and I justified it in my mind saying that's probably an electric bike, that, but it absolutely wasn't. He was just faster than me cycling up the hill. So yeah, it's just because of the weight of the bike. But the flip side to that is when you're going downhill on the bike, you go about 50 mile an hour, which is great, unless, as also happened this morning, at the bottom of the hill there's like a sharp turn, because it's harder to slow than an oil tanker, this bike. So I was like, uh-oh. But here I am, I'm alive. Hurrah.
So that's good news. We want to keep it that way for at least another 5 or 6 days, however long it takes.
After that,
you know, over to you. So what happened since yesterday lunchtime when we last spoke?
Yeah, so yesterday was a really good day in as much as all the PR stuff in the morning, got all that out of the way, which was great. But the afternoon was all about the bike ride, and I had around about 120k, so a slightly lower day in terms of overall distance covered. But what was great news is that after lunch, I had a chap by the name of Charlie, who's one of the club cyclists, one of the Royal Navy club cyclists. He joined me and stayed with me like all the way to the end. He was just an absolute legend, and it was great to be able to have someone to chat to again all afternoon. And he came all the way up from Northwood, which was my endpoint yesterday, and then it took him about 2.5 hours to then get the train and then carry on riding back to his house. I was like, you're just an absolute legend, mate. And it was brilliant. And interestingly, he's where he works within the Navy. So he works with the engineering section now in Abbey Wood down by Bristol, and he's one of their sort of mental health first aiders, a really big advocate of mental health in the workplace. So we covered loads of stuff yesterday for the 5 or 6 hours we were cycling together. But it was great, really good guy, and really good afternoon spent riding with him. It was brilliant.
So that must make a big difference to your kind of state of mind. It must do.
Huge, yeah. And I noticed it. The flip side of that was when I then spent this morning cycling for like 4 hours by myself, I was like, oh, I wish Charlie was here. I mean, not necessarily specifically Charlie, but do you know what I mean? Like, I wish there was someone to cycle along with now. Yeah, so you do notice the difference straight after when you go back to solo cycling, because you're then back inside your own mind quite a lot, which I was this morning, which is fine, but it's just different.
So if Charlie's listening in, you know, you're available. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I did ask him yesterday whether he fancied carrying on up to John O'Groats, but he said, no, I've got a job to do, mate. I was like, yeah. Fair enough.
Strangely enough, better things to do with his time. So you've also talked to me about beeping, car horns, and the difference, because
Yes.
you cycled through London. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, so yesterday, sort of late afternoon into the evening, which unfortunately coincided with rush hour, we kind of dipped into northwest London for about the last hour of the ride. And I live in London. I do all my cycling in London, so I knew exactly what to expect. But it's just absolute chaos. Like, all the cars just pretty much hate you just because you're on the road and a cyclist. So you just get endless beeping, and when you're in stationary traffic, people just roll down the windows and just hurling abuse at you, and you're like, I'm just stationary on my bike waiting to pedal away. Do you know what I mean? I feel like I'm not doing all that much wrong, but I don't know, there's just a lot of pent up anger with beeping in London. And the flip side again to that is, once I was out of London this morning, I had a bunch of cars who were beeping and slowing down to go past me this morning, but to shout out words of encouragement. So they're rolling down the window and be like, it's amazing what you're doing, because I've got like the Land's End to John O'Groats bit on my back. So they're reading that, like, keep going, mate. And it's warm, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, it's definitely warm, thank you. But within like 50 miles, the difference between the beeping was quite marked. So a positive change, that one, being out of London, getting a whole bunch of encouragement, which is amazing.
So you need to send us a photo of your punk retrofit of your jersey. So stick that on Instagram for us later so we can share that. But I think also, message to London, you need to up your game a little bit on the friendly front.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the way. And as I say, I live and ride in London all the time, so all my training rides are there, so I'm just used to it. I'm not saying it's right, but at least I knew what I was going to expect. And Charlie hadn't done much riding in London before. He's like, what's wrong with everybody? Is it always like this? I'm like, yes, mate, it's always like this, I'm afraid. So yeah, not great, but yeah, we survived. We didn't get hit, so absolute win.
Good. So, despite me taking the Michael about your beautiful backdrop, you were talking about the sort of contrasting nature of cycling through the British countryside. Well, not all the countryside, because London, but I mean, cycling through Britain and the contrasting landscapes.
Yeah, so this is day 5 now, and it's amazing because I'm covering around about 150, 200K a day. You go through loads of different regions relatively quickly. So the first couple of days, it was all about Devon and Cornwall, like the sleepy little fishing villages and the rolling countryside. I'm trying to block out the hills now, but then the hills, the ups and downs, and it was beautiful. And then through into Somerset, where it was all pancake flat, but lovely country lanes, loads of farming, tractors, all that good stuff. And then it was down to Portsmouth, like the bustling harbour, the bustling ports of Portsmouth, through London, absolute chaos, obviously. And now again, sort of north of London into farming areas again. It's just epic how much our landscape changes in a small country quite quickly. And I think the bike is like the perfect way to see it, because if you try and run, you can only cover like 30 miles a day. If you drive it, you're very much shielded from the environment you're going through. Whereas on the bike, you're absolutely exposed to it, and also people interact with you a lot more as well when you're on the bike. So there's that immersive experience of traveling through the country, and I love it. It's been great, apart from London.
Brilliant. So you've had a few more donations. I'll read out some names.
Yes.
Hopefully you'll know some of these people. From Ali, what a fab challenge. Good luck for the rest of the trip.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Okay. And then Jennifer Kennedy, who is pledged in US dollars. Thank you for your awesome work. You are amazing to do this for so many.
Yeah, no, she quite often pings us messages on Instagram. She's an absolute legend. Yeah, and support from afar. Really, really kind.
Very good. And Rory West, it's not quite USA, but enjoy the views. How apt, considering what we've just talked about.
Yeah, I think Dan works with Rory, so maybe out of guilt for sending Dan to Afghan, he's made a donation, but we'll take any. So.
And then Matt and Ruth, good job, mate, especially in this heat on your own.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I was at, basically at primary school with Matt, and I know Ruth as well, so I've known those guys for 30 years. So, brilliant. I'll drop them a message later. I don't always look at that page during the day. I look at it in the evening. So, yeah, no, thanks for the heads up. Sounds like the donations are flying in, which is epic.
Well, this is what we're hoping for, isn't it? And we've just had a message on Facebook as well from Angela Roberts, who's just messaged on Facebook to say good luck as well.
Oh, brilliant. Excellent. Like, whether it's donations or good luck messages or people beeping and hanging outside of a car shouting encouragement, it makes a huge difference, particularly on days like this where I'm doing 200 plus K and I'm on my own. It is brilliant. So thank you, everyone, for that. Hugely appreciated.
That is really good that people are taking the time to message in as well, because I think that's important, especially, as you say, doing it on your own. So what are your plans for well, not what your plans are, but what's going to be happening over the next 24 hours? Who are you meeting intentionally?
I was going to do a bit of cycling, Steve. No, so this afternoon I sort of finished my way up to. I finished at RAF Cranwell tonight, so I'm staying the night on base there, and I've got a couple of oppos who are based up there, so I'll probably catch up with those guys, which would be great. And then tomorrow is another long day, so another 200+ K day tomorrow. So hopefully get a good night's sleep. Eat 3 pizzas just before I go to bed, and then again just smashing out those miles heading north tomorrow. So it's a particularly brutal couple of days, these two, and cycling through the farmland areas. There's just zero shade. It's really flat, which is great, but there's just no protection from the sun, so it's quite hard work.
Did you just say eat 3 pizzas?
Yeah, so I either double or triple pizza scran at night. In fact, last night I found just on the outskirts of Watford a like one of those all-you-can-eat international buffet things. I was like, absolute result. And I went in there, and I don't know if they're expecting what they got, but I was just there, plate after plate after plate. I think it was like 15 quid to get in, and I must have had about 30 or 40 quid's worth of food. So sorry to that company, but it's all for a good cause.
Which have probably now gone out of business. So if there's any other all-you-can-eat buffets on Pascal's route, refuse the offer.
Do not let this man in. Yeah, it's all about the food.
So I'd like to say thank you once again for joining me and sharing this on Facebook. And we'll see you same time, 12:30, same place, Facebook Live tomorrow.
Brilliant. Thanks, Steve. Looking forward to it. Catch you tomorrow. See you all.
See you tomorrow.